welcome back to Hillbilly Modeling. This is going to be part 5, our last part of our Focke-Wulf Fw190A-3. So we're going to kick this one off with decals. So let's jump down the bench and see what we got.
So we have 2 sheets of decals, the one with the large emblems and everything on it. And as you can see, we have cut the bad decals away. Then we have the small one with all the little decals, one of which we've already used inside the cockpit underneath the headrest. That's the one that's missing there. And this little decal sheet has all the little stenciling, I guess, and directions and points for lifting the aircraft and all that. And of course, we're going to need our instructions here. Show us where to put all these decals. Now, aircraft has a lot of decals. The ones on the top side of the wing are just the white outlines. And then the rest of the German crosses there are the black with the white trim around them. Now, the aircraft that I've chosen to do is going to be this one right here. That's the one with a little rooster on it. And that is the aircraft of Commander Hans Hahn. So that's the one we're going to do. There's the rooster right there. So it should be rather interesting. Now these are water slide decals. Going to need some water. And I'm going to be using microset and microsol. Hopefully we don't have any mishaps with this stuff. It can happen and has in the past. So I do use 2 different types of applicator brushes for the microsol and microset. We have some cotton buds and also a cocktail stick or toothpick just in case we need it, and a pair of tweezers. I also like to use these self-gripping tweezers to hold the decals while they are absorbing some water and getting released from the backer board there, the little cardboard that's all the decals are set on. So for those guys that are new to modeling and you're not used to water slide decals, and I know a lot of you guys have seen me do this many times, but for you guys that are new into modeling, always separate the models that you're going to be using from the card. Just cut them out. I do like to leave the numbers with the decal until I'm ready to use them. Of course, you could just cut them out as you need them. Do make sure, however, that those little numbers that are in the little circles there, you do cut that away from the particular decals that you're going to be applying, because you don't want to get that up underneath the decal that you're applying. That's just there to identify them, and you'll use that in conjunction with your instructions to let you know which decal goes where. Now, when it comes to using these water slide decals, I do like to clip them in my self-gripping tweezers there, and we're just going to put them in some warm tap water here and let that paper soak up some water. Now, these are Tamiya decals, and they are rather thick, and the larger decals take some time to actually release from the paper themselves. I give it 15-20 seconds roughly, and I've gotten into the better habit of letting it continue to soak up that water outside of my little pot of water there. We don't want the decals to float free, because that would get rid of some of that adhesive, and we don't want that. We need as much of that adhesive as possible to stay with the decal. So using our instructions as a guide, we can see the panel line that we can use to line up our decal that goes on top of the wing there. So after a minute or so, we can just check and see if the decal's ready to move. And you can see this one's ready to move. So I just add a little bit more water there because it's kind of real sticky. And at this point, we're going to lay down a little bit of micro set. This will or at least it's supposed to, help with the adhesion of our decals. It'll also give a little bed of liquid there that'll help us position the decal and make sure that we get it lined up with that panel line that we have determined is our alignment point there to make sure that the decals are going on in the correct position. And as you can see here, it is a water slide decal, and the whole idea is to slide that decal off. I am going to use my tweezers in this particular position. It's kind of hard to do on camera, so I need to reach over top the aircraft, and the tweezers give me a little bit more reach there. And then we can just position the decal and line it up correctly. I'm just using the cocktail stick here. I don't want to use anything metal that will scratch the paint. that would be bad if we do that at this point. Now, once we have it in place, we can use our cotton bud there to get rid of the excess water. And if you just place your cotton bud at the edge of the decal, you can pretty much absorb most of the fluid out from underneath it there. And once it settles down, you can just kind of affix it by slightly, with very light pressure, rolling over the decal. This is kind of important with large decals because we need to get any air bubbles or anything out from underneath them. But you do need a rolling motion, otherwise you can slide the decal out of position, which if that happens, all you have to do is take a little bit of water and place it around the perimeter of the decal and kind of refloat it, and you can reposition it most of the time. And I say most of the time kind of as a disclaimer because I have had occasions when the decal just set itself and I couldn't get it refloated. So rather than tear it up, I kind of left it a little crooked. But this one's on straight, so we're in good shape there. So that's basically what we need to do to get them set in place. Now, since these are Tamiya decals and they're very thick, we're going to use micro sol to soften the decal because a lot of these decals are running over recessed panel lines. And also there may be little rivets or something that the decal needs to conform to. So I'm just giving it a little wash over the top of it there to help soften it. And we'll give it a few seconds to do its job. And there are occasions when we have a decal that is going to be across some really, really big gaps. As you can see right here, we have a red dotted rectangle that is going to be on both the tail section of the aircraft and the rudder. So we're going to get that into place. And since it's spanning that large gap, I'm just going to give it some time to settle down, and then we'll come back and work with it because we're going to have to do something a little drastic there to get it to go down into that large gap. Now in this particular case, I let that red rectangular dotted line pretty much dry because I didn't want to move it. And then I'm just going to come in with my X-Acto knife there and give it a little slice right in the seam because it's just not going to settle in to that large of a gap. And then we use our micro sol, that's the one with the red letters on the bottle, to soften the decal. And when it dries, it should pull right down into that gap, and it shouldn't be a problem. You may have to apply the micro sol a few times over these little seams to get them to settle in, but that'll make it look like it's painted on. For the more stubborn ones, I'm going to move to something a little bit more aggressive here. And that's Mr. Mark's softener. Now, it's more aggressive of a softener. And the attempt here is to get these decals to really settle down into all those panel lines. Maybe we will have good luck with it. However, in this particular case, because of the thickness of the carrier film that are on these water slide decals from Tamiya, it doesn't really do the job. So be prepared to have to do something else to actually get those panel lines to come through. And here we're going to use our cotton bud to kind of press the decal down in, especially over there. There's a hinge here for an access panel, and it really does not want to lay down around that. In fact, I actually tear the decal a little bit trying to get it to conform. That's kind of the problem that you can run into when you've got really thick decals. But lucky for us, this hinge is in the black, so that won't be that big of a deal for us to fix. But these are the kind of things that you run into with decals. We don't want the decal floating on the surface. We really need to get it down into all those little panel lines there to make it look good. Now, as you can see here, I did tear the German emblem there. I think it's called a Balkenkreuz over the hinge. Somebody's gonna catch me on my pronunciation, I'm sure, because it's terrible. We still have problems with the panel lines, and one of the things that I've done is I've gone through and scored them with the hobby knife there to get those panel lines to show up, and put the just the micro saw on them, and then they settled right down. And so those are looking pretty decent. So with all of our decals in place and dry, we don't want to be doing this if they're still wet. I am going to take a little bit of that Vallejo black there and fix that little area where I tore the decal, trying to get it to press down around the hinge there on that access panel there. Very lightly, just put a little black on it there. I don't think it'll be visible once we get everything painted up. So yeah, I think that'll be fine. So just a little bit of fix here. So with everything nice and dry, to include the little black paint we put on there, I'm going to use Vallejo's Gloss Acrylic Varnish to seal all of our decals in. I do have it mixed up for my airbrush, just thin, just slightly, so that it goes on nice and smooth. Now once that dries, we're ready for some panel liner. So this is Tamiya's enamel-based panel liner that I'm using here. I do like to put mine in a little jar, as you can see there, and add some enamel thinner to it to get it really thin, because as this enamel-based product here, the panel liner, gets older, some of the solvent evaporates from it, and when it does that, it gets really thick and hard to actually work with. So it's kind of a little balance that we've got to do there to make sure that it flows nicely. And I'm using a really pointed long bristle brush. That way it holds a lot of the product, and I can more accurately place the panel liner where we want it. Although I am going to have little spots here and there that we're going to have to clean up later on. But using a paintbrush to put this on rather than the applicator brush that comes with the Tamiya panel liner is much easier and leaves me a lot less cleanup that we'll have to do later. Now, since we used an acrylic gloss top coat, it'll make it so much easier to clean this enamel-based product off of it for all those little spots that are obviously mistakes. Now, once our panel liner has dried for us, we can start the process of cleaning it up. So what we're going to be using is the Tester's Enamel Thinner. You can also use white spirits. Just don't use anything that's really aggressive. We don't want to go through the paint. And a cotton bud will take care of the greatest majority of this. You can always use a clean, small brush too to clean these things up. Just make sure that whatever you do use, you make sure that it's not dripping wet. It just needs to be damp. And as you can see, I've got a little piece of paper towel there that I will use to squeeze out the excess of the enamel thinner from our cotton bud, or if you're using a brush, the same is true, because it will get down into the little crevices where we want the panel liner to stay. And if it softens all that, then the cotton bud will it'll actually pull out the panel liner, which is not what we want. We want that to stay down into those little grooves and details. So just a quick note, I'm showing you on the bottom of the aircraft because it's easier for you to see the panel liner and see what I'm doing. Of course, it's a little bit more difficult to see over the camouflage pattern because of the darker colors and the glossiness of the finish that we have right now. So you do need to do all your panel lines all over the aircraft. That includes the top side and down the sides of the fuselage too. So next up, we need to seal in all of our hard work here. I'm going to be using the Vallejo matte acrylic varnish here, and that'll seal in all of our panel liner and get rid of that really glossy finish that we got on there. And I have thinned it for the wire brush there. Just make sure before you put this on, you take a good look at the aircraft or whatever model you're doing, and you've cleaned up all your panel lines and everything. So here we are with our matte finish on, and yeah, it looks really good. I like the look of it. Now it's not cured yet, so we're not going to be taking our little wire holder off or anything. We're just going to set it aside and let this finish fully harden, fully mature, fully dry, whatever, before we start handling it. So we need to do a little bit of detail painting, and we're going to be using this Model Masters Chrome. Now, of course, Model Masters is not manufactured anymore, so I really hate that because it's great paint. So this chrome, it's an enamel-based product, so we're going to use this for the very end of our pitot tube here, or at least I believe that's what it is, and we just paint down to the step on it there. And next up, the instructions call for us to paint the hub of our propeller here with the same chrome. Of course, it being a Tamiya model, they want us to use Tamiya paints, but I like my Model Masters, so that's what I'm going to use. And we just painted up to the very edge of the propeller there. Now the center section is going to be covered up by the spinner, which is kind of like a hubcap for your propeller. But I'm going to go ahead and paint it anyway because you can kind of see just a little bit. You can get a little bit of a glimpse through the gaps that goes in around the hub of the propeller there. So next up, we're going to work on this ladder. And it calls for it to be painted aluminum. So I'm going to use these, again, we're back with the Model Master stuff. However, this is an acrylic, so it'll dry pretty quick for us. So just the connecting part for the step there, the vertical pieces, I'm going to paint those in the aluminum. Now, I painted before doing this, it's all been sprayed with the light gray that we used on the aircraft. So I'm going to leave the step bottom there, and then the top connection piece where it connects into the fuselage in the gray. So this is also an acrylic, and this is our red, and we're going to use that on our step as well. There are some I guess it's for safety or so that you can see that the ladder is down. But these are, I guess, the indicators that step is deployed. So we are just going to paint the center sections there, and no need to mask it off. I think I can accomplish this without having to go through all that, especially since we're just using a brush here. I just want to make sure that we get it painted all the way around and we don't leave any little gaps there. And that's kind of what it's supposed to look like. So I'll set that aside and let that dry. And since we have the red out, we do have these little trim tabs. Now these trim tabs are on our elevators here. They're also on the ailerons and on the rear edge of the rudder, and they're supposed to be painted red. So we will go ahead and use that same acrylic Model Master Red to paint all these in. And I don't think I need to use any masking tape on this. It's such a small area to do. Matter of fact, masking tape would probably cause me more problems. So with the wicking of the paint up underneath it and everything. So I'm just going to freehand this. So chipping is always part of weathering. And I'm going to be doing a little bit of sponge chipping here. I've got a little fuzzy there that I don't want. Get that off there. So that's a piece of synthetic sponge there. And I'm going to be using this enamel here. This is Testor's enamel flat steel. And now, yes, it is an aluminum aircraft, and you should be using aluminum technically to show wear through the paint. However, we are going to be doing this chipping down under the on the light gray areas of the aircraft too. So flat steel kind of gives us more visibility. So I'm going to start off here with our propeller. A few chips here just on the leading edges here. I don't want to overdo it. I kind of envision this aircraft as being lightly chipped. Nothing real heavy, especially like Japanese aircraft often have. We're going to also use that chipping on the spinner. And this is the center hub cover that goes on our propeller there. So we're going to add a few little chips here and there. And I'm concentrating more towards the tip of it than down the sides of it there. Yeah, it looks pretty good. I like that. So the aircraft too will have some chipping where, you know, you kind of fly through debris and whatever during combat. So all the frontal sections of the aircraft will probably catch a little bit of damage. So we're just going to chip up here around the cowling, on the leading edges of our wings and our vertical and horizontal stabilizers on the tail of the aircraft. We'll do some light chipping there, as well as our windscreen frame. So it tends to take a lot of abuse, not only with the pilots climbing in and out of the aircraft, and maintenance, and of course battle damage. So a little bit of chipping there I think is going to look good. I don't want to overdo it though. I just want to keep it light. Now I guess it's time to remove our masks and find out how our clear parts have fared through the building process. So I am using my X-Acto knife here just to lightly score the paint between the right on the edge there, between the masking tape and the frame sections. And the reason why I'm doing this is oftentimes clear parts being very smooth, they don't really grip onto the paint very well. So if there is a thick paint connection between your masking tape and the plastic part, when you go to peel your masking tape off, you can oftentimes peel the paint right off of the surfaces that you actually want it to stay onto. So being very careful here. We'll start to remove this. Now I need to get up underneath the edge after we have got this trimmed out, and just kind of lift it just a little bit We don't want to scratch our clear parts, so you have to be very gentle with it. And once we get us a little corner going, we can very carefully and slowly peel the masking tape right off of our clear parts. And this is where, you know, we're going to find out whether or not we have any issues. And I can already see that we do have some issues inside the cockpit. And so I think what happened, not sure. I did use Tamiya Extra Thin to glue our sight in place, and it was perfectly fine. But over the, I guess, the past couple of weeks that this masking tape has been on there, we have some fogging going on. And you can see right there where the headrest structure is cemented into the canopy. There's an ugly spot, and then we got fogging on our sight, that holographic sight, which that hasn't happened before. But now, probably all my fault, of course. Probably shouldn't have used the Tamiya Extra Thin for that, although I've not had that issue before. So I'm going to have to think about that. So we can go ahead and remove this masking tape too over our engine. Now, we installed that when we built the aircraft and put the cowling over top of that engine that we had already painted. So that came out very well. That's nice. All right. Yeah, it looks good, except for our little boo-boo there. So I'm going to have to figure out what to do there. Now, the purist would prowl that off and replace it. Of course, that would mean buying another kit, and I'm obviously not going to do that. So there's not much I can do about the sight. So I guess I'm just going to have to kind of live with that, since I don't intend to pull these clear parts off the kit. But we can do something which is a little bit unorthodox about those cement spots that we have there. Now, I've had Tamiya Extra Thin get up underneath masking tape before, and as long as you just let it dry and leave it alone, usually you can just kind of just polish it out. But it never really fogged on me like this. So we're just going to have to invent something here, sort of. Well, not really an invention. We'll just call it a creative approach. So I am using the same color as the dark color that we painted on the fuselage here. That's storm gray there that we darkened up. Now, this is a good reason why you don't throw out any of your mixed paints until after you've completed your kit. So I'm just going to put in little bitty triangles right over top of that horrible fogging there to kind of camouflage it. Now, I know, everybody's going to jump on me about that. But other than pulling all this apart and damaging the paintwork and going back and having to repaint all this, this is going to be my approach. Now, of course, I wouldn't do this if I intended to enter the kit into a model contest. I'd probably start from scratch. But yeah, I've got the large side there, the large boo-boo covered, and it doesn't look that bad. So I just need to replicate that on the opposite side and cover up the small boo-boo. And then, yeah, we're going to do it that way. Now, we do have navigation lights on the aircraft, on the wingtips. So I'm going to use chrome for that. And they are very, very small, so I'm just going to very carefully put the chrome on. So that kind of lays the groundwork for the transparent paints that we'll put on later. And we do have one right on the bottom edge there of the rudder. We'll take care of that as well. And we're going to have to let that dry really good, preferably at least overnight before we put anything on top of this, because this is an enamel paint that I'm using. So now we're at the part where we need to do some weathering here. The aircraft is just a little bit too clean for a flying aircraft. Now, I will say that I do kind of like to keep the look of that paint job, kind of like show through some exhaust soot and everything that we're going to be putting down the side of the aircraft here. And for that, I'm going to be using the Tamiya little compact here. That's the Tamiya Weathering Master Set B. It has rust and soot, which are the two colors that we're going to be using. And for application, I'm not going to use the little applicator pad that they've got in there. It tends to turn hard, so especially with age. And we don't want to scratch anything, so we're going to use a cotton bud here for that. These little pointy ones work well. So we're just going to load it up with a little bit of the product there. Now we're going to start off with the rust color. And this kind of be a two-tone, I guess, effect that I'm going for here. I've thought about this before. This is my first attempt at it, so I guess we'll see how that works out. Now, since we're applying this right over top of that flat coat of paint, that tends to grab onto those pigments and helps us during the application here. So we are just going to go down the side of the aircraft. And if you look at historical photos and everything, you'll see that it kind of downdrafts underneath the cockpit area there, down towards the trailing edge of the wing. So it's kind of a wedge shape there. So we're going to kind of replicate that. And since this is a weathering powder, we can still see our paint job underneath it there, which gives us that little extra dimension there. It looks more realistic. So I think this is going to turn out pretty good. So we're going to continue on with that rust underneath the aircraft because we do have some exhaust manifolds that exit from underneath the cowling there on the bottom of the aircraft. So we're just going to kind of stay with the airflow stream as the aircraft flies through the air. It's going to trail back, of course. So we're going to lay down that rust color there, right down the belly of the aircraft. Now you can do as much or as little as you want. I just kind of want it to be fairly, as far as the length, how far I'm going to take it down the fuselage, I need to take it down to at least where the rust color ends on the side of the fuselage, I think. So, I mean, it's really up to you. And so that's kind of what I've got going on there. And I also did it around where the cannons and the guns are. So also when the aircraft's in flight, we need to kind of match it up there for the covers of our landing gear bays. That way we keep that continuity thing going. All right, so now we're going to switch over to black. This is the soot. And we're going to lay in some soot over top of the rust color. And just going to rub that in down the fuselage. Anywhere where we put the rust on, we just don't want to cover up the rust. We're just going to kind of do like a center fill right down the side of the aircraft, and then of course on the belly as well. While I'm doing this, I just want to make sure that I don't take it to the edge of the rust color, because we kind of want to be able to see that. That gives us that little bit extra dimension there for the exhaust look, the staining that's on our paint job here on our aircraft. So that looks pretty good. Yeah, I'm really pleased with how that came out. First time of us kind of using multiple colors there. So yeah, and it's so easy to do. We just want to make sure that we kind of stay in the airstream there when you're applying these pigments. That way it kind of, looks natural, like it's supposed to be there. So next up, we're going to use a little bit of this polished metal pigment here from Ammo by MIG. And I really do like this stuff. Now, The instructions tell us when we are painting our wheels and tires that the center is black and the tires are rubber and all that. However, whether you use rubber or you use the German Panzer Gray like I did for the tires, it's really very, very black looking, very dark looking. You don't see any details or anything. So I'm going to use this polishing powder here on the center wheel assembly here, the rims. Going to throw a little bling in here. So, just using those pointy Q-tips here. And we're going to apply it just like, kind of like you do when you apply the rust and the soot on the aircraft for the wheels. We're just going to apply on the center section, the metal parts of our wheels. And we will do that also on the back side, just to bring out those details so that we can actually kind of see and differentiate that from the tire. I'm also going to use it on the leading edges of our propeller here. Kind of give us the effect of the top coat, the paint that's on the blades of the propeller there, being worn away from abrasion in dusty conditions and what have you, just to show some use. And checking to make sure that I'm staying with my leading edges there when I'm putting this on. Now we are going with a really light coat of this. I don't want to put it on too heavy because I don't want to have to try to remove it later if I don't like the look of it. And then we can always add more until we get the effect that we really want there. So I'm also going to go back to the spinner. And I'm going to add this polishing powder right on the nose of it there. And kind of blend it down the side of the spinner just a little bit to give us more of that worn look. So just adding a little bit more dimension there. And we're just doing this right over the chipping that we did earlier. But we're staying primarily towards the tip of it, the end of it, not really going to carry it down the sides. So at this point, we can do a little bit of assembly here, finally. So, now earlier we had painted all our landing gear and everything with that, well, our mixed up version of the RLM 22. Which is the same color we used inside on the landing gear bays. And since we do have all that paint on and everything, I'm just going to use some contact, well, not contact cement, some CA glue, this medium strength CA glue, to affix the wheels to our landing gear and also our covers. Now you do want to make sure that you've got the right cover for the right wheel before you do this, because things can get a little dicey if you have to remove something that you've attached with CA glue. So we'll just get that lined up and get our landing gears ready to attach to the aircraft. And when it comes to attaching the landing gears to the actual wings, I'm going to use the Tamiya thick cement here, although it's not as thick as, say, tube glue would be, or cement. First thing we're going to do is attach our tail wheel. So I'm just using a toothpick here to reach down inside the fuselage there and put a little bit of that thick cement in place. Now, using the thick cement allows us plenty of time to make adjustments if things aren't quite lined up, and it is slightly gap filling, so if the part doesn't have really good contact in the sockets where they need to go, this cement will kind of fill that and give it a lot of extra strength. That is, if I can actually hold on to the landing gear here. So it is a little tight fit, so you really need to make sure that the covers that you put onto the landing gear there are installed correctly and not misaligned. Otherwise, it's not going to fit for you. And then we do have a linkage to put in, and we're going to be using the same thick cement there to add these. So the linkage has a hole in it, and it goes on a pin on the back side of the landing gear strut, which you can't see at the moment. I'll flip it around here. There we go. So that little bitty pin right there, that's where we're going to attach it. And then there is a rectangular socket that it fits into the wing. So we just need to set this onto the pin and then rotate it down into the wheel well. And then you're going to have something really small to kind of push it into place here. We're just using our fine pointy tweezers to get everything lined up. So the FW190 has a really odd looking angle on its landing gear when they're in the down position. So just make sure that these linkages are seated correctly, and that way you'll have the proper angle. The only other thing that you'll have to worry about is from the side view that left and right landing gears are in line with each other forward and towards the rear of the aircraft there. And you're going to have to let that dry for quite a while there because one of the connection points is a little big. So we're going to want to make sure that it's nice and solid. And we're going to use the thick cement here to assemble our propeller. So it has a cooling fan that goes on behind the hub of our propeller. And then we need to place the spinner on over top of that. And I'm still using the thick cement for that. And these parts are keyed. So your propeller is keyed to the cooling fan assembly. And then the spinner is also keyed. So you need to line those keyways up and just put it into place. And there we have our propeller. So we'll set that aside and let that dry. Now, we don't want to forget about our ladder. So this is so the pilot can get into the cockpit here. And we're going to use that same thick cement there to attach that. Now, make sure that you look at your instructions and you don't get the ladder backwards, as I did. And after I flipped the the aircraft over, I noticed that. And yeah, so I flipped it around. You're going to want to check that before the cement dries. So we've given plenty of time for our chrome to dry for our navigation lights. So we're going to use these transparent Tamiya colors here, the red, the green, and also the smoke to paint those in. And they're quite small, so we're not going to be using very much paint here. So I am using a really fine paintbrush to do this. So it should be red to the left. And then for the right wingtip, we're going to put the green on it. And we do have to pay close attention that we don't get this onto the fuselage or the wing paint, just on the lens. That's the only area that we're going to cover. And for the navigation light that's on our rudder, we're going to use the smoke color. And it is a really small area that you got to get this on. And the reason why I'm using the smoke is to kind of minimize the chrome look, but the chrome look underneath these lights gives it a little bit more noticeability, although on the real aircraft they all look almost black. So next up, we need to add our radio antenna. We're going to be using the fine easy line for that, and it is a stretch line. It's kind of elastic. So we're going to need a little bit of CA glue for that. So it attaches to the canopy. There's a little nub on top of the canopy. Don't know how well you can see it, but we're going to put a little bit of, and it's hard for me to see, so I know you guys are probably struggling with it. We're going to put a little bit of CA glue there, and then we're going to use our tweezers and attach that end of it to the canopy first. And then we're just going to repeat the process for the attachment of the line to our vertical stabilizer. So there is a little bulbous projection there on the top of the vertical stabilizer that our line needs to attach to. And we're just going to stick it to the cement there, the CA glue, until it catches. Now, I do trim the line slightly shorter than the distance we need to span. By doing this, the line stays taut once that CA glue grabs hold of it there. Now with that done, we can very carefully insert our propeller assembly here. Now, if you remember back during the build, when we built our engine, it has a polycap inside the gear housing there. We just need to press that home, and I think we're done. So I guess that completes everything. We'll just take a quick look at our FW190A-3. Now, as far as the kit goes, I think it's a great kit. It really is. The fuselage halves really meet up very nicely. We didn't use any filler for that. We did have a couple of little spaces around the engine cowl and the wing roots to take care of, and then of course where the lower wing assembly meets the fuselage. But other than that, you can practically build this without any putty at all. Now the engine doesn't have any detail, and we already knew that when we was building the kit. And as you can see from the pictures, you can't see the engine anyway because of that cooling fan. And then, of course, the opening in the front of the engine cowl to let the cooling air through right around our propeller is relatively small compared to the size of the engine. So that's no biggie. Now, most of everything went well in the build. I really like the look of this aircraft, and we managed to get through all the painting and everything without any big mishaps. The only exception being is the mistake with the canopy, where we got some fogging there, and then for the gun sight too, which is unfortunate. However, those kind of things happen, but I think we kind of minimized that as much as we could, so something to watch out for. I believe my big mistake was I really didn't wash the kit before building, and I definitely didn't wash the clear parts. So that's something to remember. Quite possibly it was release compound left on the inside that the cement reacted with. Or at least that's my excuse. That's what I'm going with. Obviously, it's all my fault. So I enjoyed the build. I hope you guys did too. And yeah, special thanks to all my subscribers. It's because of you guys that I keep building these kits and posting the videos. And I hope that you enjoyed this one. If you did, give it a like. I'd appreciate that. And if you're new to the channel and not a subscriber, I hope today I earned your subscription. So, until I see you guys in the next one, you guys take care.